I'll start by introducing myself. James Bench, Chief Delivery Officer at Capital Technology Group. I lead operations, delivery, and technology for our federal modernization programs. Our panelists today, we have Heath Anderson and Tony Arcadi. Heath is the CEO of Rome Federal and former CIO of the U.S. Capitol Police, brings deep expertise in leading IT strategy, modernization, in mission-critical environments. We also have Tony Arcadi, principal at Arcadi Advisory and former CIO at the U.S. Department of Treasury, with extensive expertise in enterprise transformation and federal financial systems. Jumping right into it, we only have a little bit of time to cover these very important topics. Tony, given your experience overseeing $8 billion in IT spend at Treasury, IT budgets are made up of a lot of moving parts: infrastructure, licenses, contracts, and people. In your experience, where do leaders tend to look first for efficiency, and where should they actually be looking?
So I think today, leadership is looking at staff for efficiency, right? Big number is always in the people. I don't know that that's where they should be looking. I think that, certainly in an organization like Treasury, the expertise, the institutional knowledge, the commitment of the Treasury IT staff is really our most important asset. And I think that there is a lot of efficiency from a cost perspective to be had in deduplicating systems, eliminating redundancies, consolidating tool sets, and really looking, I think, internally at systems to make our people more efficient, to allow our people to do more with less. There is probably, in any given environment, Treasury is a very big place, but there's lots of spare capacity in compute, in storage, in network. We don't have great observability of that capacity. And we can increase efficiency, cost efficiency, right? We can drop budget, we can increase the cost efficiency by empowering our staff with data, driving our systems at higher utilization rates, eliminating duplicative systems, and consolidating tool sets. Prior panel mentioned, I believe, a 5-for-1, right? 5 old tools with 1 new tool that covered all the ground. And I think that is where the most material efficiency opportunities exist.
Thank you for that. If you had to pick one area where agencies are being forced to rethink efficiency, where would that be?
I think it's broadly, across the entire environment. It's be more, do more with less, right? Be more efficient with the money. And again, I think the way to do that is to really look at duplicative systems, systems that are performing duplicative functions across multiple components, tool set consolidation, and overall making staff more efficient.
All right, thank you. Heath, you're a believer that visibility drives efficiency. What does that actually look like in practice? What changes once you can finally see everything?
Yeah, former law enforcement officer and former CIO for the U.S. Capitol Police. So for me, visibility and a clear line of sight is always critical, particularly in a solid foundation for a enterprise-level cybersecurity program, right? So as soon as we can start to see and have that visibility of your enterprise stack in one, I'll use the previous panel's comment about the single pane of glass, but once you have it in one location, you then, you're able to basically identify both cost sinks as well as unmonitored security risks, right? So looking at both of those from an efficiency standpoint, you're able to identify either unauthorized cloud instances, it could be legacy or shadow IT that was previously undiscoverable, had not been maintained from a security posture, as well as a budgetary standpoint. Yeah, I would say once you get to a point where you have that full visibility, you really change the dynamics from being in that reactive to more of a proactive defense, and shifting, your your mindset from guessing to knowing, right? As far as what you really have visibility into, and having the team working from the same sheet of music.
Now, let's say you have the visibility, and the data is telling you there are duplicative tools, wasted spend. What has to happen organizationally to actually do something about it, and where does that process usually break down?
Yeah, sure. I think it starts with visibility and really kind of unpackaging what that means, right? You've identified some challenges, whether it's unauthorized systems in use, cloud spin-up that's been put in place. It's beginning to establish that inventory and going through your governance process to either decommission, identify replacements, or what we'll talk about, as we get later into the conversation, I'm sure, is really the consolidation of platforms throughout your enterprise environment.
Well, speaking of the consolidation, so what is the common mistake that agencies make when trying to consolidate?
Well, I think to Tony's point earlier, I think it's focusing on the wrong issue. And it's really not kind of, again, going back to the initial panel, was, when I think about, not really taking the time to look at what other options are available in the market today, right? And understanding how you can collapse disparate systems within your current environment because you've been used to them for the last 5 years plus, and really bringing in, new platforms to work your consolidation efforts on.
Tony, when a platform like Datadog is actually being used the way it's meant to be, what does good look like, and what does an agency or organization feel like when the visibility is actually driving efficiency?
So again, I think you're empowering your staff with this data that's available through a platform like Datadog to make good decisions, right? And make decisions around, are we using all our resources most effectively? And I think, in many organizations, you're not using all your resources to the maximum efficiency because you don't have the transparency and the visibility into how those resources are being used on a day-to-day basis. So I think good looks like, comprehensive real-time data, single pane of glass-ish. Can I access this data in a quick, easy mechanism? Can I digest it? And can I use it to drive decisions? And those decisions can focus on executing efficiently. I think the transparency into day-to-day operations and the visibility that a platform like Datadog can provide can drive budget discussions. It can drive mission outcome discussions, right? You can talk about this platform is highly used. This platform is less highly used. Really knowing, having transparency into what's going on in your environment, and being able to showcase that transparency to your leadership and to your staff so that everybody's on the same page, moving in the same direction, is what good looks like.
Heath, also to you, what does good look like?
Yeah, I think for me, I kind of started in application development and, progressed through to, a CIO role as I left government. I think for me, it's about a unified DevSecOps culture within the organization, one that's really, focused on the fact that you've got developers as well as your security analysts operating from that same kind of visibility pane, right? You're looking at the same telemetry data, you're looking at the same performance metrics that are coming in. And you start to step away from the finger pointing, right? And you reduce to near zero, you can reduce that kind of mean time to innocence, right? And I say that because I go back to the finger pointing, right? It's usually a pointing whose data is correct, right? And it's usually through disparate systems that you're working on between application development, security, and operations.
Now, about cultural change, Tony. So you've been inside the government trying to drive change. What actually moves people, and what doesn't work no matter how good the data is?
Oh, cultural change is hard. It's probably, for me, the hardest equation to solve. people are complicated. But I think that what moves people is being part of a team. I think if you, as a leader, show transparency in your decisions, again, if you're all looking at the same data set together, you're explaining how you're arriving at your conclusions on that data set, what's driving your decisions, and isolating success and showcasing that success. Everybody wants to be a part of a winning team. I certainly want to be a part of the winning team, right? So you find some place in your organization that's having success, that's demonstrating best practices, that's using the data available to them to make good decisions. You showcase them, and you build your team out from there. You build that cultural change. You build a culture of winning. Winning is a habit, right? Success is a habit that you form. And you can drive that habit, again, by showcasing it, by supporting those people, by giving them the tools and data that they need to make good decisions and do good work, and the culture will evolve itself over time.
Now, admittedly so, cultural change is hard, but where in your experience have you seen the most resistance?
Again, I think that folks can be wedded to past practice. They're comfortable in the way that we used to do things, and I think we all need to recognize that change is necessary. It's inevitable. It's desirable. I'm an old man here on the stage, but I reflect back on let's say Kodak, inventing the digital camera and locking it away in a safe. I still call photocopies Xerox. I can go through lots of other examples, but I have a clock running in front of me. Folks like to stick to what used to work, but technology marches forward, and we need to embrace that change and that opportunity with new technology and bring ourselves forward as well. And again, I think the way I overcome that resistance, that, hey, I want to do it the old way, again, is data-driven. Hey, look at what I'm looking at, right? Let's look at this together, and let's discuss what this information, what this data is telling us. And let's, isn't this a reasonable decision based on what this data is telling us? So I think you overcome resistance with transparency, data, and just, again, fostering that culture of success.
Heath, to you. So if, to the leaders in the room that are trying to make a case for modernization, in a tight budget environment, as we all seem to live in, what's the argument that actually lands with agency leadership and the budget office?
Well, I would start with, really the premise that technical debt is not only a mission, but also a security liability for the organization, right? So, starting from that place, I then kind of would drive into having that clear line of sight and that visibility into what that looks like, right? I would add to that you can't really, and this is kind of a callback to the first panel, is you can't really innovate or secure what you can't see, right, or what you don't fully understand. And I think, as you're looking to cut costs, you're looking to innovate, you're looking to operate in tight budget constraints, knowledge is power, right, and understanding where your environment sits, how it's being utilized, quickly identifying between a performance bug and something that is much more of a security focus, such as a breach or some sort of security incident. Those are the things that are going to be the most critical as you're trying to navigate in tightly constrained environments.
So, Tony, also to you. What's the case that actually makes people make the decision to modernize?
I think again, it starts with understanding your environment, looking at your data set, understanding, how these systems are supporting your mission, and quite frankly, where your users are, right? What are your users doing, and how are they leveraging these systems? And you use that information, that data, to drive decision making.
So now, what would be the advice that you'd give to agencies to stop doing to free up resources?
So I'm going to go back to my original answer on duplication, right? Treasury, where I spent the majority of my career, is a very big place. There's 10 operating bureaus and a number of subordinate offices. There's a tremendous amount of replication or duplicative systems. When I became CIO, there were, for instance, 23 different instances of O365 on 11 different contract vehicles, right? So there's an opportunity there for cost efficiency, for economies of scale, for attack surface reduction, for deduplication and cost efficiency, right? And I think if you go into any large organization, you're going to find these duplicative services across email, across video, across financial systems, across acquisition systems, right? Commodity IT systems, and I'll further add that in deduplicating these systems, not only you're reducing attack surface, not only are you generating cost efficiency, but generally you're bringing in new technology as well, right? Which further advances the mission.
Heath, last question to you to close it out. So what would be the advice you would give to leaders for something they should be doing differently tomorrow?
Yeah, I think along those lines, right, is really boiling it back down to the basics. Again, with cost and innovation in particular, is really just having that deep understanding of what the environment, and this is across all resourcing, whether it's budgetary, it's your systematic, it's your people. Right, and having that visibility and that full inventory of what that looks like so that you can properly develop out a fully informed plan.
Great. Heath, Tony, appreciate the time. We only scratched the surface of the topic, but appreciate your time on the panel. And I'll hand it to Greg to introduce our next session.